question of policy change around school gun violence, I think, is a multi-leveled question. Um, there's not a magic bullet per se. I think that's going to ensure, that children won't be accessing high caliber rifles and, acting out in violent ways. Clearly, the underlying concern here is, I think, both the mental health challenges and challenges related to funding and identification, as well as the culture of violence and death that we have seemingly ignored. You know, we have children who've watched warfare for years from thousands of miles away, as if it hasn't been occurring, and as if there's no social cost and very little cause and effect. um, an alarming amount of lack of cause and effect. Nuclear gamesmanship, fact that my children have never seen an era where the country they live in hasn't been at war, flying drones with impunity to third world nations and dropping bombs on families. All of that comes at a cost. And I think part of the cost has been, if you saddled up and sent 60,000 soldiers somewhere, at least there was an anchor somewhere, someone pulling back to say, at a certain point, this is not a great idea for humanity. Now, with the cost so limited, we do these actions and create this culture of violence, and violence is glorified generally across our society. And I think from a policy perspective, we really need to start to assess as a country where it is that we want to go and what things we actually truly stand for. As it relates specifically to, common sense measures that we can take, I'm really not an advocate of trying to parse this 50 different ways in relation to different firearm calibers and things of that nature. I don't know that gets us where we need to go. I would be in favor of a scenario, that I think kind of fits into the system that we have established. I think, if a couple people are willing to come forward and say that you have a legitimate mental health issue, and prove that to a judge, that there should be at least some capacity on a very limited basis to seize those firearms and hold them. There should be, coupled with that tightly, a mandatory 1 month review of the facts following a mental health assessment. There should also be the capacity to appeal that decision to a higher level court that is not associated with the local court. And I think that there should be a time frame on it. I think a year is a sufficient amount of time to have these cases reassessed, to understand what has occurred in that time frame. But as it stands right now, there's a lot of people with these school shootings who have indicated, hey, we knew something was going on with this kid. And I think we do ourselves a justice by utilizing the system that we have in place to attempt to intervene in these cases where there clearly are challenges and threats of violence. At the same time, we are a system of checks and balances. I think the legal system provides us an opportunity to have, you know, folks from, outside of the situation independently assess the scenario. Um, Again, I think that there are a number of safeguards that we can put in place as stopgap measures, and no one ever died from losing their gun for 30 days, but a whole lot of people have died, you know, by having guns in the wrong hands. And so, again, I think that our system, the way that it's designed with judicial review, provides us an opportunity to have that dialogue. I would like to see a public defender uh, attached to those cases. I would like the psychological review to be an independent review as opposed to a government-based review. Um, and so, I think that there probably are some very common sense things that we can do that ascribe to our higher values of justice and freedom. Um, and I think that that's one thing that could be done, from a common sense measure to help. But I think we need to start to put some ideas on the table and not sacrifice too much in terms of security. Currently there are a number of checks and balances on our liberties, and I think by adopting some of the stronger core principles of our constitutional republic, that we can move the needle on this and try to not only stop the damage from the people who are being shot, but also really deal with those who are doing the shooting. Clearly there are massive challenges as it relates to mental health for a child who feels that they have no option but to kill their peers.